It all ended with a crack, not a thunderous crash, but the quiet, unmistakable sound of a man breaking under the weight of his own ambition.
Being the best husband I can to my fantastic wife Vic, who has been a rock by my side.
A pause, a shaky breath, and yesterday, standing outside number 10 Downing Street, Keir Starmer announced he would step down as Prime Minister, but the story of his downfall wasn't written in that single moment. It was the culmination of a premiership that began with a historic mandate for change and ended in a quiet retreat from the battlefield of British politics. How did it come to this? How did the man who promised to restore stability become another casualty of the political volatility he was elected to end? This is a story of the final crack that shattered the premiership of Keir Starmer. Feels like a lifetime ago, but it was July 2024 when Keir Starmer's Labour Party swept back into power after 14 years in opposition. The victory was historic, a landslide of 411 seats secured with the promise of a single, intoxicating idea: stability. After the chaos of Brexit, Johnson and Truss, Britain was exhausted. Starmer, the former Director of Public Prosecutions, seemed to offer an antidote. He wasn't a firebrand, he was a pragmatist. Standing on the steps of Downing Street, he pledged to restore.
And that your government should treat every single person in this country with respect.
And leading a government of
public service.
The country, wary of constant upheaval, breathed a collective sigh of relief. The plan was clear: get to work, fix what was broken, and govern with quiet competence. For a moment, it seemed like the cycle of crisis had finally been broken. The first cracks began to show, not with a bang, but with a series of self-inflicted wounds. An early plan by the government to means test winter fuel payments sparked a furious backlash, forcing a dramatic U-turn. The damage was done. It was the first sign of a government that lacked a crucial political instinct. The bleeding continued. A multi-billion pound welfare reform bill intended to demonstrate fiscal toughness was met with open revolt from his own backbenchers, forcing the government into another series of climb downs. The man who promised strength was beginning to look weak and hesitant. While the government wrestled with its own policies, the public was growing disillusioned. Despite a huge majority in Parliament, Labour's victory was built on a wide but shallow base of support. With only 34% of the vote, many were motivated more by anger at the Conservatives than enthusiasm for Labour. This lack of excitement was made worse as life for millions remained stubbornly hard. People had voted for change, but for many it felt like little had changed at all. The cost of living crisis, which Labour had promised to get to grips on, continued to bite. The government that entered office with so much goodwill was now seen as out of touch and unclear. The disconnect between the rhetoric of renewal and the reality of people's lives had become a chasm. Every political downfall has a moment that crystallises the narrative of failure. For Starmer, it was the Mandelson affair. In a move that baffled many, he appointed Peter Mandelson, a controversial figure from the New Labour era, as the UK ambassador to Washington, hoping to leverage his experience with the Trump administration. Instead, it blew up in his face. Revelations about Mandelson's past links to the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein created a firestorm. The crisis escalated until in February 2026, Starmer's Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, resigned, taking the fall for a catastrophic misjudgment. For many, the affair demonstrated a fundamental lack of political judgment, a failure to foresee a crisis of his own making. If the Mandelson affair was the wound, the local elections of May 2026 was the final twist of the knife. The results were catastrophic for Labour, which lost control of 38 councils. Projections suggested Labour's national vote share had plummeted, with the party falling behind Reform UK and even the Greens. The dam broke. What followed was a cascade of pressure and challenges to his authority. The ambitious Health Secretary Wes Streeting announced he would not contest the leadership, instead backing Andy Burnham. The party was in open revolt. The man who had united Labour to win a historic victory now couldn't command the loyalty of his own party. His authority was gone. The end was no longer a question of if, but when. And yet to cast his premiership as only a litany of failures would be to ignore the changes his government did achieve. Historians may note the paradox of a leader who seemed to fail at politics while succeeding at policy. The landmark Employment Rights Bill, passed in late 2024, was a genuine triumph, hailed as the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation. It introduced new rights to sick pay and parental leave from day one, tackled exploitative zero-hour contracts by giving workers the right to a more predictable contract, and moved to end the practice of fire and rehire. After a long and bitter internal party battle, Chancellor Rachel Reeves finally announced the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap in her November 2025 budget. It was a move estimated to lift hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty, a policy many in the Labour movement saw as the very reason they were in government. A new Renters' Rights Act finally came into force, banning no-fault evictions and giving 11 million tenants more security. A rollout of universal free breakfast clubs began in primary schools across England, and Great British Energy, a new publicly owned clean power company, was established with £8.3 billion in funding to invest in renewables. These were significant concrete reforms that changed lives. Which brings us back to that podium outside number 10 when Keir Starmer stepped up to speak. He was a man bearing the weight of all these contradictions. The weight of a historic victory, of policy successes that went unrecognised, and of political failures that had proven fatal. He was a leader who had lost his party, lost the public, and ultimately lost the authority to govern. He spoke of his government's achievements, of a country that was stronger and fairer, but it was when he turned to the personal cost that the carefully constructed facade of the unflappable leader finally gave way.
And when I leave the biggest job in the country, I shall spend more time on the most important job, being the best husband I can to my fantastic wife Vic, who has been a rock by my side through good times and bad, and being the best dad I can to my beautiful children, who are my pride and my joy. Thank you very much.
That crack in his voice wasn't just about his family, it was the sound of 2 years of immense, relentless pressure, the sound of a man who had climbed the highest peak in British politics, only to find himself completely alone at the summit. It was the final human admission that the burden had become too much to bear. The legacy of Keir Starmer will be debated for years. Was he a transformative reforming Prime Minister undone by poor political instincts? Or was he a fundamentally unpolitical leader, handed a victory by a nation that simply wanted anyone but the Conservatives? Perhaps the truth is that he was a man caught between his own nature and the demand of the moment. He offered methodical calm to a country that, it turns out, still craved something more. His government passed laws that will endure, improving the lives of working people in tangible ways. But in the end, politics is not just a battle of policy, but a battle of narrative. And Keir Starmer, for all of his forensic skill, lost control of the story. He leaves behind a Britain still grappling with a deep economic pain, and a Labour Party once again searching for a leader who can not only win power, but keep it. Anyway, what do you guys think? Keir Starmer's downfall inevitable, or a tragic story of missed opportunities? Let us know in the comments below, and if you want more deep dives into the stories that shape our political world, make sure to subscribe and click the bell and icon and all that lovely stuff, and I shall just bid you farewell and take care, my friends.